Good evening. The Board of Trustees of the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District is now convened in a regular meeting on Thursday, June 14, 2018, in the boardroom of the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Instructional Support Center, 10300 Jones Road, Houston, Texas, at 6 p.m. I want to welcome the members of our audience and our television viewers to this meeting of the Board of Trustees. As the Cypress-Fairbanks Board of Trustees, we're here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. Prior to this meeting, board members received information related to items on tonight's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. The meeting is open for all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by sections 551.071 through 551.084 of the Texas Government Code. These proceedings are airing live on CFTV Channel 16 and CFTV Online on the district website. They will also be rebroadcast throughout the month on Channel 16 and available as video on demand on the website. For the tape to adequately reflect the proceedings, I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that cell phones are turned off or in silent mode. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening and for your interest in the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize our community leadership committee members who are in attendance this evening. They are Julie Heineman and Danica Smith-With. Would you all stand, please, or wave? We're so glad to have you here tonight. And do we have any Boy Scouts here tonight? I don't think we do. Okay. It's time for our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join me in an invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight's invocation will be given by Kevin Coscarelli, deacon at Prince of Peace Catholic Community. With over 9,000 registered households, Prince of Peace is one of the largest Catholic churches in Houston. Back in 1970s, they met at Matsky and Blau before building their own church. Prince of Peace opened their doors and helped families after the tax day flood in 2016 and have also volunteered with our Bus Buddies program. Deacon Cascarelli started his career as a financial advisor, then went to the University of St. Thomas and received his master's degree in pastoral studies and theology in 2014. He joined Prince of Peace in 2015. He has children in Tomball ISD, and he understands the important role of faith-based leaders, the role that they play in our students' lives. We're glad to have you here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Let us pray. Blessed are you, Lord God of mercy, who through your Son gave us a marvelous example of charity and the great commandment of love for one another. We give you thanks for the success and the lessons of this past school year, for the gift of education, and for teachers who strive to bring out the best in their students. Send down your blessings on all recent graduates and guide them on their journeys. Bless the faculty, the administration, staff, students, and families of Cyfair Independent School District. During this summer break, grant them safety and refreshment and make them ready for the upcoming school year. Bless all of us gathered here this evening, and especially the school board members as they frame the mission of the district. Aid them in their duties and keep them always mindful of their solemn obligation to service for the good of the students of Cyfair Independent School District and for the community at large, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board Member Don Ryan will read the district's vision and mission statement for the benefit of our audience.
Thank you, John. Our vision statement: learn, empower, achieve, dream, lead. Our mission statement: maximize every student's potential through rigorous and relevant learning experiences, preparing students to be 21st century global leaders.
All right. With the board's permission, I would like to rearrange the agenda and address item 7M. The board will consider approving the interlocal governmental agreement between Harris County Municipal Utility District number 167 and Cypress-Fairbanks ISD for the installation of recreational facilities at Sheridan Elementary School, and authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate the final terms and execute all related documents. Can we have a motion on that?
Mr. President, hold on a minute here. I didn't get turned over. I move that the board approve the interlocal government agreement between Harris County Municipal Utility District number 167 and Cypress-Fairbanks ISD for the installation of recreational facilities at Sheridan Elementary School, and authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate the final terms and execute all related documents.
Second. All
right, before we vote on that, we'd like to thank and recognize MUD 167 for the partnership and support that they have shown many times over the years for our district and campuses. In addition to this generous donation being discussed tonight for Sheridan Elementary, in 2005 they donated a crushed granite walking track for Sheridan. In 2011 they donated transformational improvements at McPhee Elementary, their playground, including landscaping, irrigation, and shade structures. And in 2013, they installed landscaping and irrigation at Sheraton, Thornton, and Cy Lakes. These donations that I just mentioned total over $440,000. And we're thankful to have this utility district which gives so much to our school district. Anyone else have any comments, and then we can vote?
I would just like to add from the perspective of the superintendent, it's so great when we have other governmental entities that partner with the school district, that recognize how integral the school district is into the success of this community. And of course, our MUDs are a big part of our success also. And I don't know that there's any other MUD that is more generous or more supportive than of Cyfair ISD than MUD 167, and I certainly appreciate that. And Mr. Ryan is up here, and I would invite members of the board that are here to come up so we can make a little presentation to you. So if y'all would join us up front. Here.
Anyone from 167? All right.
Well, they're coming. I know where they were on the agenda, I did tell them that we would move them up, and they were all coming from work. So I apologize. I actually thought they were here, or I would have
Okay.
asked you to. So if we could, and I was just trying to, get Dawn to walk around so that we could. Yeah, get in some steps. So may I ask you to recognize them a little bit later in the meeting?
That we will do.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and vote, though. All those in favor? Aye, okay. Aye and raising, I guess. You're such a great. All right. Again, we'll do that morning. Thank you. We'll now go to the special recognitions portion of our agenda. On 1A, the Cyfair Volunteer Fire Department will make a presentation to Dr. Henry and the Board of Trustees for the district's response during Hurricane Harvey. And the presenter tonight will be John Hurt, the Captain David Padovan had death in the family, and we sure miss him, but this will be done by a volunteer fire department representative, John Hurt.
Thank you very much, sir. Could I ask here he is. That's pretty good. I feel like I'm on Bewitched. Is the Chief Mendez here also? Yeah. And I will tell you now, my mother was from North Georgia, where the word is hurricane, which is the way I grew up saying it. So if I slip between the two, you'll understand why. But it's my happy duty and my distinct honor to present this token of our esteem and appreciation to the Independent School District here at Cypress-Fairbanks. And if you'll indulge me, I'd like to read the text. And as mentioned, this is from the Cyfair Volunteer Fire Department. On August 25th, 2017, Hurricane Harvey, a Category 4 storm, made landfall in the state of Texas, bringing unprecedented rainfall. This rainfall, coupled with extreme wind and storms, caused historic flooding and catastrophic destructions to countless homes and businesses throughout the state. The communities and citizens of Northwest Harris County, Texas, were not immune from this devastation. Following Hurricane Harvey's landfall, Cyfair Volunteer Fire Department executed countless rescues for the citizens of Cypress and surrounding areas in Northwest Harris County. Exhausting all resources to move citizens to a safe location, Cyfair Volunteer Fire Department reached out to the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District for assistance. Without hesitation, the Cyfair ISD offered the use of numerous school buses, drivers, and even opened the Berry Center for temporary shelter. The school buses functioned as means of transportation for countless citizens who would have otherwise been stranded for hours and or days because of the weather. The Cyfair Volunteer Fire Department would like to recognize the employees, the staff, and the leadership of the Independent School District for their dedication and continuous support during Hurricane Harvey and the days following. The collaboration between the Cyfair VFD and the Cyfair ISD is a textbook example of two agencies working together to achieve a common goal, the protection of its citizens. Thank you and congratulations.
And Mr. President, I would also like to thank the Cy-Fair Volunteer Fire Department. Again, the same things I said about the mud. We've got such a wonderful community where all of our organizations work together, and it's for the betterment of the community and the betterment of the citizens. And thank you so much for your bravery and taking care of the citizens during a very, very difficult time. We're glad to be your partner. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda, B, the board will recognize students from the Cypress Springs, Cy-Fair, and Cy-Ranch High Schools for finishing first or second at the UIL State Track Meet, and students from Cypress Ranch High School for finishing second at the UIL State Tennis Tournament. Ray Cepeda.
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. Dr. Ogletree, Board of Trustees, Dr. Henry, it is my distinct pleasure to be here tonight representing our athletic department to present to you a group of athletes and coaches that achieved to the highest levels of performance in UIL competition. I truly appreciate the time that you're affording us to recognize these deserving athletes. I'm going to start tonight with a couple of athletes that finished first or second place at the UIL State Track Meet held at the University of Texas on Saturday, May the 12th. These individuals worked extremely hard throughout the course of their season to be the best at their sport, and it's extremely gratifying to see them achieve that level of success in a venue like a UT's track stadium. We're going to start off with a young lady that we recognized just last month, Caitlin Bannis, a senior at Cypress Ranch High School. Caitlin. Caitlin was a silver medalist in the pole vault. This was the third year in a row for Caitlin to medal at the state track meet. And if you don't remember, in May I told you that this also goes with the 4 medals that she earned as a state wrestler, including a gold medal this year. Caitlin finishes up with 7 medals, UIL medals, and is one of CFISD's most decorated athletes. She is committed to attend the University of Arkansas.
Big.
Her greatest fear is that she's going to say things like that. But we're extremely proud of her. Her coach, Jason Garza, is here with us tonight. Jason, if you would stand. And I would also ask that her principal, Mike Manis, and any of his administrative team to stand as well. And Coach Johnson is her athletic coordinator. One thing that we figured out is that athletes don't do this on their own. It takes a village to get them here. And I know we're appreciative of Mr. Manis, of you, Coach Johnson, and Coach Garza. Again, Caitlin Bannis, Cypress Ranch High School. Next up is Wonders Ogwejifor. She is a sophomore from Cypress Springs. She is a gold medalist as a sophomore in the 800-meter run this year. She ran a fast 2.0997, and I'm very, very proud of her performance. She led pretty much the entire race, and I kept on waiting for this young lady from Keller to catch up to her, and she never did. Wonder showed really the type of grit and determination that Cy Springs athletes can possess, and we're very excited to see her over the course of the rest of her career. I would also say that she competed in the high jump, in the 4x4 as well, and we looked to seeing some great things from Wonders. Wonders is coached by Rakaya Gibson. Coach Gibson, if you would stand up. This is truly a Wonders moment and recognition, but I would have to say that this is a yearly tradition for us to recognize Cy Spring athletes and Coach Gibson. Coach does a phenomenal job with the young ladies, and I think more so than what I'm proud of as far as to what she does with them on the track is that she coaches them in a 360-degree way that allows them to be the very best young ladies that they can be. So, Coach, thank you so much for what you do. I know that Dr. Henry could not be with us tonight, but I see Ms. Lagarde here, and I'd like you to stand to be recognized. And I know that Wonder's mom is here as well, if she could stand to be recognized. Thank you so much. Again, Wonders, congratulations. I hate to go backwards here, but I just looked over. I had not seen them before. I see Caitlin's parents here. Darcy and John, could you stand up to be recognized? You know, when I talk about it takes a village, I mean, there have been countless trips that her dad has made with Caitlin to take her to San Antonio to get her to this point. So I appreciate everything that you've done to allow your daughter to be a part of our programs. You know, this recognition can sometimes be a little tough. It's in the summer. I would be remiss if I didn't recognize, though, the 3 athletes that could not be with us tonight. And I'm going to start off with a junior at Cypress Ranch, Kylie Collins. She was a silver medalist in the 100 meters at the state track meet. She was also a competitor in the 200 meters and barely missed medaling as she finished 4th. We are excited about Kylie's continued involvement in our program. I also want to introduce Melissa Lamette, who is a junior at Cypress Ranch. Melissa won 2 tough matches to advance to the state tennis finals in the singles. This is the 2nd state medal that Melissa has won there at Ranch. She also won a gold medal last year in mixed doubles. And again, Melissa is a junior. As these were 2 Cypress Ranch athletes, again, Coach Johnson, thank you again for what you do to not only coach our football team, but to lead a truly outstanding athletic program, and to Mr. Manis, to you as well. And I'm going to finish up, I know I've gotten out of order here, Joel, with Eddie Sumler, a senior at Cy-Fair High School. Eddie won a gold medal in the 200 meters. It's his second medal that Eddie has won. He was a silver medalist last year. He is committed to attend the University of Houston, so he is staying in state. And he could not be here tonight, but his coach, Jimmy Reese, is here. And Coach Reese, could you stand up? Coach Reese. Coach Reese was wondering if he could be here tonight because he actually formally retired after 34 years of service to Cy-Fair ISD and 41 years in education. Obviously, we're here to celebrate Eddie and his tremendous accomplishment, but Coach Reese, thank you so much for all that you've done for Cy-Fair ISD and the athletes of Cy-Fair High School. This concludes our presentation, and really another stellar year for our programs that included 2 team state championships, 3 state tournament appearances in team sports, and multiple individual state champions. We are very appreciative of your continued support, Dr. Henry, and the Board of Trustees. Your unwavering support has really allowed us to rise to new heights, and we're looking forward to the future. Thank you so much.
Outstanding, outstanding. We'll now go to 1C. The board will recognize the winners of the 2018 spring semester's campus attendance incentives. I'm going to go first. I'll go down there first. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dr. Ogletree, members of the board, Dr. Henry, it's exciting tonight that we're going to be able to hand out some money to some very deserving teachers. So we'll get started with that. If you recall, the board graciously approved a campus attendance incentive program in the 2017-18 general operating budget at a total cost of $441,000. At the January board meeting, we awarded 130 winners at $1,600 each from a pool of 4,574 eligible employees for the fall semester for a total cost of $208,000. And tonight we award another $208,000 for 130 winners at $1,600 each for the spring semester. And then later on after that, we will award $25,000 for 5 additional winners at $5,000 each for having perfect attendance all year. This is the second full year of this incentive, and last year, 4,425 employees were eligible for the fall semester incentive, and 3,115 employees were eligible for the spring semester, totaling 7,577 individuals. In addition to that, 469 employees were eligible for the $5,000 end-of-year perfect attendance award. As a reminder, the goal of the incentive was designed to accomplish two specific goals. First, the primary goal is to maintain the continuity of the classroom instruction by keeping the regular teacher in the classroom every day. It makes a tremendous difference to those students when their regular teacher is consistently there in the classroom every day by just simply providing structure and stability in their learning environment as well as the students' academic achievement. Secondly, a goal was to reduce the approximately $10 million that we spend each year on instructional substitute costs. And I can tell you that this program is working and is helping with that. As a reminder to you and for the benefit of our audience, the way the incentive program works is that full-time classroom teachers and campus paraeducators are eligible to have their name drawn each semester for a $1,600 attendance incentive if the individual has 2 or fewer absences during that semester. Each semester stands alone, so that a teacher or paraeducator who may not be eligible for the drawing in the fall semester can be eligible at the end of the spring semester. And then at the end of the school year, any full-time classroom teacher or campus paraeducator with perfect attendance all year will be eligible to have their name drawn to receive one of 5,000 perfect attendance awards. Each elementary campus draws one incentive winner. Each middle school draws 2 winners. Each high school, with the exception of Cy Park and Bridgeland, draw 3 winners. Cy Park and Bridgeland high schools each draw 2 winners, and next year when we have this program, as they increase in another grade, they will draw 3 winners as well. And the special campuses, Winfern, ALC East, ALC West, and Carlton Carpenter Centers will each draw 1 winner. So tonight I am excited to recognize and for the board members to be able to hand out $1,600 checks to those individuals who had 2 or fewer absences during the spring semester and were fortunate to have their name drawn out of the hat. I just want to mention also that although 130 individuals are winners of a $1,600 incentive checks, I want you to know that 2,798 people were eligible for the spring semester drawing. And then this number, coupled with the 4,574 people eligible for last fall semester drawing, totals 7,372 people eligible for the 2017-2018 school year. As far as the 5 awards for perfect attendance, we will draw those names, the names of the winners tonight, from a pool of 388 eligible employees, and so the board members will do that. First, I will call out each winner's name alphabetically by campus level, beginning with the alternative and elementary schools, and then the secondary campuses. And then after these employees have been recognized, board members, again, as I mentioned, will draw the 5 perfect attendance winners. But before we get started, I want to say that there are 6 winners tonight who have been a winner in a previous semester drawing. And I will acknowledge those individuals as they walk through if they are here tonight. So the way this is going to work, they're going to hand me their card with their name. They're going to come over to our assistants over here, Lori and Lisa, and they're going to match up the name with the check, and each of the board members then will have an opportunity to shake their hand and congratulate them. So with that, let's get started. Now, your ticket for your check is this, so you need to take this back over there to them. So Claudia Matuska, ALC East. Julie Gonzalez, Winfern School of Choice. Maria Molina, Adam Elementary School. Hi. Tara Willis, Alt Elementary School. Havasita Machaka, Bain Elementary School. I apologize now if I mispronounce anybody's name, but I do okay on that? All right. Gonzalez Estrella, Black Elementary School. Agustina Rios, Emory Elementary School. Marcia Omar Elementary School. Emmett Elementary School. Marcia, you need your ticket. Thank you. Martin Galicia, Francone Elementary School. Kylie Freeman, Frazier Elementary School. Daisy Guerra, Gleason Elementary School. Jason Zenos, Hemingway Elementary School. Got it right, huh? All right. Julie Holt, Keith Elementary School. Hi. Jill Smith, boy, that's easy. Lampkin Elementary School. Tasmay Newton, Lee Elementary School. Caitlin Womack, Maskey Elementary School. Hi, Caitlin. Hi. Helen Redmond, Pope Elementary School. Courtney Clark, Post Elementary School. Catherine Keating, Rennell Elementary School. Paula Kaufman, Robinson Elementary School. And you're Robeson Elementary School. Lisa Stegent, Robeson Elementary School. Hi. Michelle Meyer, Sheridan Elementary School. Hello there. William Caulfield, Tips Elementary School. Adria Gronsky, Warner Elementary School. Renee Ortiz, Wilburn Elementary School. Hi. Carrie Lee Cinda, Woodard Elementary School. Lana Tristan, Anthony Middle School. Hi. Kelly Wiley, Anthony Middle School. Alyssa Dupree, Aragon Middle School. Alyssa was a winner the fall semester of 16-17.
All right. Get hurt by the lotto ticket.
Travis Brown, Danish Elementary School. Hey.
Pronounced Abdel Caduce.
Abraham Abdel Caduce, Blyle Middle School. How'd I do? All right.
As long as it's spelled right.
Janet Veit, Blyle Middle School. Jaleesa McDonald, Campbell Middle School. Hey, Jaleesa. Slow down? All right. Oh.
Not funny.
Sorry.
Check Mr. Ryan's pockets, please.
Is this when I try to tell some jokes? I don't know. No?
There, yes.
All right, here we go. Sylvia Contreras, Dean Middle School. Thank you. Rodney Zimmerhansel, Dean Middle School. Gina Patrick, Hopper Middle School. Gina. Gary Aaron, Salyards Middle School. Joseph Glass, Salyards Middle School. Judy Zurich, Smith Middle School. Did I get that right? Brittany Jefferson, Thornton Middle School. Amy Lai, right? Bridgeland High School. Elisa Batzer, Cyfair High School. Excuse me, Elisa. You're gonna need this. Hi. Ronnie Sadler, Cyfair High School. David Scheidler, Cyfair High School. Hey. Nicholas Hightower, Cy Lakes High School. He was also a winner in the fall semester of 17-18. Nadezhda Michaka Garcia, Cy Park High School. How'd I do? Really good. Lakeisha Preston, Cy Park High School. It's throwing me off because it says Cypress Ranch or Cypress Park. I just see, you know, Cyfair. Yeah, I know. It's just Court Gillen, Cy Ranch High School. Hi. Deborah Hamilton, Cy Ridge High School. Hi. Tanisha Rogers, Cy Springs High School. Tanisha. Good. Peggy Stanton, Cy Springs High School. Amara Pacheco, Langham Creek High School. Is that close? All right. Oh, get out of here. I thought I'd try. So as I mentioned, we have 388 names in that basket right there that will be drawn. We'll draw 5 names for them to win $5,000. They may or may not be here tonight, but what we will do is those names, if they're not here tonight, we'll mail those checks out to them. And by the way, the folks that were not here tonight that were winners of the $1,600 checks, we are mailing those out to them as well. So, Mr. Ryan, are you going to draw? First name. Okay, $5,000 goes to George Heap, Cy Creek High School. $5,000. All right. Draw it again. Carolyn Jeffers, Cy Lakes High School. Oh, by the way, George Heap is a U.S. government teacher, and Carolyn Jeffers is a financial secretary. So we have Elaine Dorval, a teacher and athletic trainer at Cy Park High School, $5,000. Gerald Watley, Hopper Middle School, 8th grade math teacher. Last one. Okay, Jose Balbuena, Dean Middle School, 8th grade math teacher. Congratulations to these folks. Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. That concludes that presentation.
Thank you, Stuart. That is awesome. Our second year of being able to make our faithful employees smile, and we're so glad that this has been instituted here at Cyfair ISD. And for our board members, I want you to know that in the next legislature, I understand a bill is going to be introduced where we can get an incentive package here. Perfect. Just hold on. It's coming. Our superintendent will now make remarks and announcements, including honors and achievements.
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. And before I get into the announcements, I will say that a couple of the athletes that we have here tonight, I tell you what, Caitlin, I have really enjoyed watching you compete over the last 3 years, especially, and whether it's wrestling or track and field, you always made Cyfair ISD proud, and I was proud to call you one of our own. So I'm glad you're taking your talents to Fayetteville. So congratulations. And then, as Mr. Zapata said about Wonders, when she took off and she was ahead, and she was not favored to win the race, and she was ahead, and I kept waiting, you know, for the favorites to catch, and she just wouldn't give up. So I tell you, it's going to be fun to watch you the next 2 years also. And then the coaches that are here behind any exceptional athlete, whether it's at the high school level or LeBron James or Tom Brady, there's always a coach guiding those athletes and make the biggest difference. And you'll hear people like LeBron James and Tom Brady and all the greats say that no matter how good we are, it takes coaching. And I appreciate Mr. Zapata and the way he leads our athletic department with integrity, and everywhere we go, I'm always proud to be affiliated with Cyfair ISD. And I don't know of any school district in the state, when you look across fine arts, when you look across academics, when you look across athletics, that has more success than Cyfair ISD, and it's because of leaders we have like Mr. Zapata. And coaches, thank y'all so much for your leadership, and parents, thank you. We know it's a partnership, and it takes all of us. So I've really enjoyed being here and watching our athletic department even get better. Dr. Glenda Horner, CFISD Director of Staff Development, was nominated by faculty at the University of Houston to receive the 2018 University Council for Educational Administration Excellence and Educational Leadership Award, a national recognition presented to school administrators who have made significant contributions to the improvement of administrator preparation. Team BB Swag, which I've never said that before, which comprised of Swinky Elementary School 4th grade students, earned a 3rd place finish to lead 5 CFISD Destination Imagination teams in demonstrating their creativity and problem-solving talents during the Global Finals tournament held in May at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. Congratulations to the Cypress Ranch High School baseball team for a great season. They reached the state tournament, and I'm proud to say, for the 2nd year in a row, in 2 of the major boys team sports, we had both teams in the regional finals. Cyfair and Langham Creek were in the football regional finals, and Cy Ranch and Cyfair were in the baseball regional finals. So we knew we were going to have someone at state. But they finished their year by reaching the state tournament. They had a 32-9 record and finished in the as a state semifinalist. So as Mr. Zapata said earlier, we had a great year on the field, in the court, and at the track. So thank you, Dr. Ogletree, and that completes my report.
All right, thank you. We'll now go to our public. Oh, okay, let's take a 5-minute break. We'll take a break.
So you can escape.
Yeah, so you are.
No, they're not.
All right, we'll now reconvene, and we have 2 public hearings tonight. The first one is the board will hold a public hearing on the adoption of the 2018-2019 budget. And Stuart Snow.
Thank you, President Ogletree, members of the board, and Dr. Henry. The purpose of this public hearing, as you know, is to provide residents of the district an opportunity to express their views and opinions on the proposed budget. Recall that I made a presentation at the May Committee of the Whole meeting on the preliminary budget, and tonight's presentation is not substantially different than the budget that I presented back then. In May, I talked about how the flooding from Hurricane Harvey hurt so many of our students, teachers, and other staff, as well as causing much disruption in the instructional calendar and a number of class days that were missed. In addition, with certain other recent events, it is necessary to place a much higher priority on the safety of our students and staff. So our budget priorities are to continue to provide the finest quality of instruction and services to our students, and to recommend a compensation plan that includes a salary increase for all employees that competes with our neighboring districts at a high level, and one that more than offsets the anticipated increase in health insurance premiums. And as I mentioned, placing a high priority on student and staff safety. And then finally, to provide the necessary resources to maintain the district's assets. So our proposed budget includes offering a starting teacher salary of $54,000, which is $1,000 more than the current year, this year. Also provide a salary increase of 3% for all teachers at each step on the hiring schedule. The amount of the increase for teachers ranges from $1,590 to $2,479, with an average increase of $2,020 across all steps of the hiring schedule. This budget also includes funding to provide a salary increase of 3% or of the greater of midpoint or base salary for all other employees. We are including a funding for an increase of $2 in the daily rate paid to substitute teachers and substitute paraprofessionals. This budget also provides funding to the police department for 6 additional police officers, 2 dispatchers, a security systems specialist, a records clerk, and 2 canines. In addition to the police department funding that I just mentioned, we are adding an additional $1 million of funding for school safety. At this time, our plan for this funding are not definite, but we do know that we want to establish a district-wide crisis response team. The additional funding may also include many other things, such as the increased use of and the purchase of more metal detectors, additional mental health services, additional police officers and canines, the expansion of counseling services, and the expansion of mental health evaluations to identify students at risk of harming others. Also, greater use of digital technology, etc. So a lot of other things. We will begin the process of establishing our safety plan over the next weeks. And this is all local funding, by the way. We also expect an undetermined amount to be available from state and federal grants to augment this funding. This budget also includes funding for ongoing software licenses and maintenance, funding for an expected increase in our property insurance premiums, funding for music uniform rotation schedule, and then since we have been realigned into 2 UIL districts, we will incur additional costs such as travel and that sort of thing. And also providing funding necessary to accommodate the additional grade level at both Bridgeland and Cy Park high schools. And so the cost of the major items in the budget listed on the previous slide are $13.8 million, the cost of the teacher salary increase. $7.4 million represents the cost of the salary increase for all other employees. $4 million for new teachers for new enrollment growth. and then $500,000 for the police department in salaries. All total, those four items total $25.7 million just in salaries and benefits as part of this budget. $1 million, as I mentioned, goes to school safety and security. $600,000 represents the UIL realignment costs. $1.5 million for software licenses and the increase in our property insurance premiums, and then $4.3 million for other miscellaneous costs. So the total budget additions represent $33.1 million. And then, as I mentioned, and presented in May, we have, over the course of the budget process, which began in January, identified areas where we could cut or save $21.7 million from the current budget through departmental cuts, attrition of unfilled positions, or renegotiated contracts. And so the budget amounts to a net increase over the current year of $11.4 million, or just a 1.2% increase over the 17-18 fiscal budget. This slide shows the proposed 2018-19 budgeted revenues and expenditures compared to the current 2017-2018 adopted budget. Note that the 2018-19 projected revenues includes $28 million of additional tax and state revenue due to the 2-cent tax rate swap that I discussed with you in May. Also recall that the budget deficit before the effects of the additional revenues resulting from the tax rate swap was $39 million deficit, but because of the proposed the proposed tax rate swap, the budget deficit is now $12.6 million. This slide shows the different components of the budgeted revenue with tax and other local revenue of $540.3 million, representing 58.8% of the budget of the total revenues. The state revenue of $371.6 million, representing 40% of the total. Now, regarding the state revenue, that amount, the amount of $371.6 million, includes $40 million of TRS on behalf. That is, it's just an accounting entry which is offset by the same amount in the expenditures. The TEA requires us to record both a revenue and expenditure as a pass-through for the state's contribution to the teacher retirement system on behalf of our employees. So in order to get a clearer picture of the real amount of state revenue that we receive for district operations under the Foundation School Program, you need to subtract $40 million from the $371.6 million of on behalf from the total shown there. And the result is state revenue, real state revenue, for operations of $331.6 million. And that represents just 37.7% of total revenues, which also results in a local tax revenue making up 60% of the total. The next slide shows the proposed budgeted expenditures sorted by object level, totaling $931,946,225. And as you can see, payroll cost, which includes salaries and benefits, represents the lion's share of that budget, over 89% of our operating budget. As you know, the functional level is the level of expenditures at which you actually approve the budget. So the next three slides detail the proposed budget by function level. The expenditures related to direct classroom instruction represent 65% of the budget, while instructional related expenditures represent 71% of the budget when you include the instructional resources function, which is the library, curriculum and staff development, and guidance and counseling. Just want to point out that on the next slide, that the budgeted expenditures for general administration represents only 1.8% of the budget. The statewide average, by the way, for general administration expenditures is about 3.5%. So well below the state average at 1.8%. And then when we calculate the administrative cost ratio based on this budget, on these budgeted function level expenditures, this budget represents a ratio of 3.9% compared to a statewide average of about 7.5%. So if we could flip to, let's see, go one more, Joel, if you could. Yeah, this is a kind of a strange slide that we're required to put in here. The new version of the State Financial Integrity Rating System, or FIRST, requires us to document that we have complied with indicator number 20, which is that we are required to discuss with the board our property values and the funding lag within 120 days of adopting the operating budget. And if you recall that I discussed this information in detail with you during my preliminary budget presentation on May 14th, 2018. If we were to fail this indicator, it would result in a reduced number of points earned in the FIRST rating and the district's overall rating. So by putting this slide in here, we have documented that we did make that discussion, or have that discussion prior to the adoption of the budget. You are also required to adopt a budget for the payment of our principal and interest payments on our outstanding bonds. This is the debt service budget, or the INS, or interest and sinking fund. The budgeted expenditures are the principal and interest payments due August 2018 and February 2019. Our total principal and interest payments for fiscal 2019 will be $205,404,559. However, we will receive funding from the federal government for our Build America bonds and qualified school construction bonds that we have outstanding, estimated to be about in the amount of $4,806,453 that will offset our debt service payments. And as you can see, I've also included a line there for existing debt allotment. And I put that in there to remind everybody that under the existing EDA program, we no longer qualify for state payments and will not receive any funding under the EDA program for 2018-19. In addition, we will receive $3,606,190 of hold harmless resulting from the change in the state mandated homestead exemption from $15,000 to $25,000 that was implemented by the 2015 legislative session. Therefore, the amount that taxpayers will provide locally will be $196,981,916. You are also required to adopt a budget for the food service program. And as you know, food service is self-supported through paid breakfast and lunch sales and federal reimbursement through the National School Lunch Program. The food service budget, the food service fund requires no tax dollars to support that program. And the budget for 2018-19 is $61,060,301. So the tax rates will be adopted by the Board of Trustees in September or October after the Harris County Appraisal District provides certified property tax rolls. In this slide and in the public notice advertising this public hearing in the Houston Chronicle, I am showing that because of the tax rate swap, the maintenance and operations, or M&O tax rate, will increase from its current $1.04 to $1.06, and the tax rate for the debt service, or INS fund, will drop from the current level of 40 cents to 38 cents. So note that as you vote to adopt the 2018-19 operating budget later in this meeting, you are also expressing your interest, or not your interest, but your intent to adopt an M&O tax rate of $1.06 and an INS tax rate of 38 cents later in the year. The total of those two tax rates, $1.44, remain unchanged from the current year of $1.44. So that concludes my presentation on the budget, and I would be happy to answer your questions and invite members of the Cy-Fair community to make any comments regarding the budget.
I believe did we have anyone sign up?
It's on the budget.
This is on the budget. If they can sign up even now. I guess they can sign up even during the hearing. Thank you, Nicole. Okay. Amy Azizan, would you come up to the podium right here? You have 3 minutes. Once you begin speaking, the green light will go on, and when you have 30 seconds left, yellow light, and then when the red, just make sure you're concluding your statements. We're glad to have you. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Amy Ozan, and I'm a mom of 4 kids in the Cy-Fair district. My question was, if I'm looking at your slides correctly, social work services account for 0.12% of the total budget, and security and guidance and counseling count for 3.6%. My question is, how will the $1 million that is going to be approved for school safety going to flow into those very small parts of our overall budget?
I'll take the first shot at that. We are starting safety and security committee meetings on Monday, and a lot of our plan moving for 18-19 will be determined at that time. And I think Mr. Snow said that $1 million has not been determined where it will go, and also the additional money we may receive from the state. So to answer your question, it hasn't been determined yet. That will be formulated over this summer.
Great. And again, to follow up with that question, is it the intention to take money from existing services and then just relabel it as social work or security measures, or are we actually looking for new monies to put into those services?
No, ma'am. A couple of weeks ago, I talked to Mr. Snow and asked him to add additional money to the budget. So
Very
that
good.
will be new funds.
Thank you so much.
You have another one? All right, Tara Cummings.
Hi, thank you. Kind of related to what she was talking about. I had planned to speak in the other part, but I think it fits here too. One of the concerns I have, I'm a former psychologist in the district, and as the district continues to grow, I know you've added some additional psychologists, but not nearly at the rate that I think we need to add. And so the National Association for School Psychologists recommends a ratio of 1 school psychologist for every 700 students. And as of September 2017, our enrollment was at 115,525 students, which makes the ratio we have 1 school psychologist for, as of 2018 and 19, there will be 29 full-time psychologists employed by the district. And so that will make the ratio 1 school psychologist for every 3,984 students, which is almost 6 times higher than what NAST recommends. And so I'm just curious how the proposed budget might allow for additional school psychologists as part of safety, as part of mental health and counseling, as part of all of those concerns.
Again, that's a big part of the discussions we've already had, and the serious discussions will begin next week. And of course, although we understand that there needs to be facility changes, one of the biggest things we're looking at are behavioral changes, and that's where psychologists and counselors will come into the picture. So we will be addressing that also. Now, whether it's 1 to 700, I don't know immediately.
Right, that might
if
take
the
some work.
funding will be available, but we are hoping that this is on the state's radar, and that the state is going to provide additional funding. Our governor has spent a lot of time talking about the added need of counseling and psychologists. So we're counting on the state putting their money where their mouth is, so that we'll be able to do that.
Thank you. One additional thing, one way that we all of us might be able to support that, there's actually a proposed bill that is called Increasing Access to Mental Health in Schools Act. It's at the U.S. level, at the federal level, it's Senate Bill 2934 and House Bill 5932, and so that's something that we could all call our representatives to get some additional support for that at the federal level. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, if I could, I would like to remind our community that we have already spent nearly $56 million on our facilities that was funded through the 2014 bond program. And some of the facility improvements that we've already made include lockdown panic buttons, bullet-resistant glass at the main entries, secured vestibules at the main entries, emergency call buttons, card reader access, new communication towers, front door video cameras and buzzers, and additional digital cameras and upgrades. So a number of items that we've already accomplished at each of our facilities as well.
And just to add to that, and it's obvious by what he said, but this was on our radar 5 or 6 years ago.
Correct.
Just because of the recent tragedies. We didn't just start talking about this, but certainly we know we need to do more, and so much is not just facility related. It's identifying, and one of the goals we have is to be proactive, not reactive. Certainly you have to be reactive when it happens, but if we can be more proactive through mental health services, counselors, identification, and we do a lot of that through the police department now by monitoring social media. We do a lot already, but as we said today in our principals meeting, we know we need to improve, and even when we've improved, we need to improve more. So it really is on the top of our radar, and I spent quite a while today talking to our principals and other staff. We always say safety is our number one priority, but it's our number 1A and 1B priority moving into 18-19.
And this year alone, we've added about over $2.5 million to our police department to beef that department up this year alone. So.
Okay. Any board members have any questions of Mr. Snow on the adoption of the budget? Any?
Yeah.
All right.
Good presentation, Stuart. A handful of questions. First, in the budget that we adopted last year, that is just now finishing up, and Monday night we took a look at the amendments to the budget to bring it into line with that which we actually realized. One of the adjustments was a reduction in local revenues of about, if memory serves me right, of about $10 million. The question is, have we taken into account that reduction in revenues that actually was realized last year in lower local revenues? Is that reflected in this new budget, or are we assuming that that was a one-time blip on the radar and will not happen again?
Well, the reduction in revenues that you speak of really relate to the level of our property values and how those property values turned out. The increase in the property values slightly off from what we had projected at the beginning of the year that went into the formulation of the budget. And so the revenues that are included in the 2018-2019 budget include what our projections are for property values at that point in time. So I guess you can say that, yes, we've included or have taken into account the value difference in the current year and as it flows through to the next year.
Will the impact of Harvey be felt in local revenues from property taxes for this budget?
Yes, but the amount of impact is not really known at this point in time. We're projecting that the impact to Cypher ISD will, in total, will be fairly minimal. We're projecting about a 0.5 percentage point reduction in our total property values. Remember that our total property values are about $56 billion. And so, when you're talking about a 0.5 percentage point reduction in property values due to the impact of Hurricane Harvey, it's a fairly nominal amount that would impact us.
But you have taken into account in your projections the potential impact of Harvey on the property values.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
And when do we anticipate to have certified rolls for property values?
Harris County Appraisal District historically provides the certified rolls to us at the end of August. Sometimes it bleeds over into the beginning of September. So by the time we get those, and then we can get the agenda item prepared and ready for adoption of the tax rate, it takes us about, if we can get them soon enough, we can adopt the tax rate in September, but generally it's in October. But traditionally it's later in August, like the last couple of days in August, that we receive those.
One of the mechanisms you use to reduce the funding disparity is to recognize reductions in personnel and programs of approximately $21 million. Is there anything that the state could do so that we would not have to suffer that diminution in personnel or programs?
Well, the state could give us more money.
Obviously, but through what mechanism would the state get?
Well, I think that the best mechanism statewide that would benefit all school districts would be to increase the basic allotment that's in statute. And that provides us additional money on a per weighted student basis.
Some 8 years ago, when I was just an ordinary citizen, you came and spoke to the CLC, and you identified several different aspects of the funding gap, one of which is a financial penalty that the district is assessed relative to the OHE and the manner in which property values are allocated. Does that penalty still exist today?
Still exists.
I seem to recall when I came and presented to the board and requested their support, the board did in fact approve the priorities of the CLC at that time, which included an attempt to persuade our elected officials in Austin to close the funding gap, and one of those was to address the penalty. I think 3 members of the current board were at the dais at that time, and if memory serves me right, it was a unanimous vote by the board to adopt those priorities. So perhaps we can look to reviewing those priorities going forth. Would you explain for the viewing audience what that financial penalty is? Because it's a little complex.
Sure. You all have adopted a 20% optional homestead exemption. The tax code, the Texas tax code, allows school districts to provide an additional homestead exemption above and beyond what's mandated by the state under the tax code. And you all have for years adopted a 20% optional homestead exemption. That's a local exemption. By the way, it's not local anymore because the legislature has prohibited us a couple of sessions ago from changing or repealing that. So that provision in the Education Code expires in December of 2019. So it's no longer your option. It's a state mandated 20% homestead exemption. But saying that, the Texas Comptroller for state funding purposes also appraises our property values. We have two appraisals, one by the Harris County Appraisal District, which is used for the levy of our tax, of the tax rate that you adopt on an annual basis. The other appraisal is by the Texas Comptroller, and those appraisals don't always reconcile in terms of they're different. Usually they're different. Those values are different. But the value that is appraised by the Texas Comptroller is the value that is used to pay and to calculate the amount of state funding that we receive. The problem is, in the funding issue that you're referring to, is that the Comptroller does not recognize the 20% optional homestead exemption that you all provide. And so if the state Comptroller did recognize that 20% optional homestead exemption, it would reduce the amount of property value used in determining what our state revenue would be. And by reducing the amount of state revenue, that would result in an increase in the amount of actual state revenue that we would receive for operating purposes. If they were to, if the Comptroller would recognize that 20% optional homestead exemption in calculating the amount of our revenue for state purposes, would provide us with an additional $58 million annually. So it's a big number.
That is a big number. I remember just a handful of years ago, I was in a meeting with Senator Patrick before he became Lieutenant Governor. Teresa was there, but also Tom Pickford, head of the CLC. And I know that at that time, the CLC pressed Senator Patrick about removing that financial penalty. Didn't happen then, but perhaps it could happen sometime in the future.
Well, there are approximately 200 school districts in the state of Texas that also offer an optional homestead exemption anywhere from 5 to 20%. And so I could imagine, you know, if we're leaving $58 million on the table annually, then that statewide, that number is going to be a pretty large number for the legislature to deal with if they were to do something with that.
So it could be difficult for the legislature, but certainly merely because it's difficult does not remove the unfairness of it.
Correct.
Since we no longer have that option. You talked about a reduction of $21 million. Do we have an idea of how that is anticipated to be apportioned?
Well, for one thing, we did not eliminate any programs, any academic programs throughout the district. So you can be assured that we will not see any reduction in our academic programs for that. Most of that is unfilled positions that we had budgeted for last year that we will not fill in the current year or in the 2018-19. And then we've also, as I mentioned earlier, renegotiated some fairly sizable contracts, some for utilities, some for software licenses and that sort of thing.
So for the $21 million, will we be cutting into the police department budget or anything as it relates to school safety?
No, sir. In fact, we're adding to the police department budget. And as I mentioned earlier, we've added this year alone about $2.5 million, and then we're adding an additional, I think if I recall, about $500,000 for next year, plus whatever is decided in terms of that $1 million for safety and security, and some of that may go to the police department as well.
Very good, thank you.
Any other, Bob?
Just one, Stuart, and every time we go through a budget, I'll get some calls from people that will be asking me that the payroll budget of 89.39% is up there, but that's pushed up there because we pay so much money to our administration. And once again, can you tell us how much of that 89.39% is for administration?
Well, if you go back to that slide of the function level expenditures, general administration represents 1.8%, $17 million.
Okay, I wanted that out there so people would know, because I know I'm not avoiding the calls. I'm sure I'll get a few anyway, but it is extremely important for people to realize that we are not spending our money just here and there, and we're focusing on educating students.
Well, and if you look at, Joel, if you could go back to the, I think it's slide 6, that one. Total payroll cost, and again, that's salaries and benefits, $833 million. Go to the next slide. $606 million of that is direct classroom instruction. And then if you add the $53 million for instructional, that's the library, the library of $8 million, the curriculum and instruction, let's see, where am I? And staff development and guidance and counseling, $33 million. Those are campus instructional related expenditures. So of that, $833 million, $660 million of that is instructional related.
Okay, that's all I needed. Thank you.
Debbie?
Just a comment adding to what Bob was asking. As a former president of a credit union, and I know it's true of any organization or business, your payroll cost is always going to be the highest percentage of your expenses. It's just the way it is. You need people to be effective.
Well, we're not a manufacturing company. We don't buy raw materials. We're a people business, and so our assets are really our people, and that's where our money goes.
All right, thank you all. Okay.
I was waiting for my colleague, Ms. Blacksher, to ask this question. We asked it before, but I think it bears repeating at the public hearing tonight. Stuart, you've recommended an increase in salary, but as we all know, all of us pay health insurance, and health insurance costs are going up. Will the salary increase be greater than, less than, or equal to the anticipated increase in health insurance costs?
The salary increase is much greater than the increase in insurance costs, and I don't think I brought that with me tonight, but if you recall at the May meeting, we talked about that quite lengthy discussion about the cost of the insurance premiums and how that related to the salary increases. But the salary increases more than offset significantly the increases in the health insurance premiums.
And you did in fact have very specific numbers as it related to that question. So if anybody in the viewing audience wanted to look at the specific numbers,
sure,
they can go to May, and those numbers have not changed since May. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Thank you.
Anything further? All right, we'll now go to B on the public hearing. The board will now hold a public hearing on the Children's Internet Protection Act, CIPA, for internet filtering and internet safety. And Frankie Jackson.
I think we have a presentation. I'm telling you. Gosh. As many as we have, you think they can fix it? Good evening, President Ogletree, Dr. Henry, Board of Trustees, Executive Cabinet, and community. I will be giving a public hearing on the Children's Internet Protection Act, which we refer to as CIPA. The purpose of this public hearing is to validate and communicate how we comply with CIPA. CIPA requires that we use internet filters and other measures to protect students from harmful and inappropriate content on the internet. Measures include policies, education, and governance. It also requires that we conduct a public hearing. Sorry, guys. There you go. I will be sharing how we comply with CIPA in these 4 areas: protection, policies, education, and governance. First, we use a robust CIPA-compliant internet firewall and content filter. In simple terms, our firewall, Fortinet, monitors and filters inappropriate content in real time. It also provides extensive monitoring and reporting. Here's an example of how Fortinet categorizes internet website traffic. We have the ability to block website categories and websites within each category. We also have the ability to set up student profiles by age group, for example, by elementary school, middle school, and high school students. This provides an additional level of flexibility to better serve our students. We have a massive amount of internet traffic that flows through our network, including bring your own technology devices. If we pick any random day of the school year, we process millions of websites every day. We estimate for this school year we processed over 20 billion websites. Billion. How do we know if our content filtering is working? We validate that internet protection is working by analyzing reports and the types of websites that are blocked. So for example, if we just take May 23rd, we had over 4.5 million websites that were blocked on that day. Comparing last year to this school year, the number of websites that we blocked doubled. We also have the ability to take control of the blocking by blocking and unblocking specific sites. So for example, if we look at this school year, we had some custom block sites where we had requests to block 19 sites and to unblock 49 sites. So considering the number of websites that we process, that number of custom blocking sites really are minimal. For additional measures of protection, we can run reports on browsing activity, network bandwidth usage, and also security threats. And the reports can be run at the individual level as well as the global enterprise level. Second, we comply with CIPA by requiring that our staff and students adhere to strict policies, such as those that are included in the student handbook, the code of conduct, the employee handbook. And these policies and guidelines are accessible from our district's website. Third, we educate our students. Student Services develops courses in project safety that includes education and social networking, cyberbullying, chat rooms, and harmful content on inappropriate websites. Lessons in project safety are updated on a 3-year rotation cycle. So for example, this year, middle school lessons are being revised. Next year, elementary school lessons will be revised. And then in 2019-20, high school lessons will be updated. There's specific emphasis placed on cyberbullying in the middle schools and online behavior in the high schools, including inappropriate social media usage. Lastly, under governance, the Internet Content Management and Filtering Advisory Committee reviews and proposes improvement to the district's internet content management and filtering practices. This committee includes members from technology services, schools, legal, curriculum, and instructional technology, and we just completed our 4th successful year of governance. Next year, we're recommending an additional level of governance. We're proposing that a new committee be formed called the Cybersecurity and Compliance Governance Authority. we're proposing that a new committee be formed called the Cybersecurity and Compliance Governance Authority. Sorry about that. This committee will develop and implement data privacy and security policies and practices at the highest level with human resources, student services, the police department, legal, business services, and technology services. Last, in the area of governance, we're strengthening our cybersecurity staff's focus through systems and practices. We have some of our staff members here. Jennifer Miller's role as the Director of Technology Support Services has been expanded to include a team that's dedicated to cybersecurity services. James Costello is our new cybersecurity specialist. He joined our team in February of 2018. Eric Pena, he's one of our customer care center analysts. He now provides dedicated support to cybersecurity. And additionally, we're working to obtain the Trusted Learning Environment seal. And we continue to strengthen our focus on the security of our network infrastructure systems and software, which is directed and managed by Paula Ross and Greg Rhodes. This concludes the public hearing. I will entertain questions or answer any comments that our community may have.
Bob? No.
Okay, you know how technology challenged I am, okay? So,
No, I don't believe
so you're talking about $1 billion that you block.
Yes.
How do you do that with that staff?
Well, we have, as I discussed, through a software solution called Fortinet that was purchased through our 2014 bond. If you'll remember, it was actually in February of 2015. We purchased a product called Fortinet, which is a filter, and so it runs in the background. So for example, if you look at this slide, all of the thousands of computers that we have running across the district, every time that any user, whether it be a student or an employee, requests to access an internet website, it goes through a content filter. And then through the blocking of these categories, for example, these are categories of students, the software either says yes or no, you can go through. What I really like about this software is that it does have the ability to use profiles. So for example, we have a profile for elementary school students based on their login ID and credentials, another profile for middle schools and also for high schools, as well as employees. And then we have like a default category for visitors that basically fall into the same profile blocking as elementary school students. And then we have some, such as with the police department and at the associate cabinet level, that have open no blocking.
Honestly, I'm thrilled that we've got that, because when you've got grandchildren in elementary school and then one going into middle school, to know that they are as safe and secure as y'all have them, thank you very much. I wasn't diminishing what y'all do, I just didn't know how you did it, so thank you.
Yeah, it's something that again, that I applaud the board for and the administration for backing and supporting our technology program and allowing us to move forward with the purchases that we've requested, which include internet filtering. We couldn't do it without it.
Anyone else? All right, Tom.
Good presentation as always. Some time ago, we approved devices going home. We also approved creation of a wider Wi-Fi network, including one for part of our community that was very underserved by Wi-Fi. Does the blocking mechanism, the software, does it reside with these devices? Does it go out, or once it leaves the campus area, are students then able to use our devices to access unauthorized sites?
No. you can see, for example, these are districts that are representative, for example, the BYOT that we're blocking in district. I think your question is about those devices that are going home.
Correct.
We really have two mechanisms for devices that are going home, both of which are blocked. For example, the latest proof of concept that we implemented at the Tanner Mobile Home Park, that is the perfect solution because that solution allows us to extend the school to home so that those students in that mobile home park are able to access the internet with the same levels of blocking that we have in district. And as a matter of fact, I drove over to Tanner Mobile Home Park just yesterday to check the connectivity and to also check the blocking, and it was working beautifully. The second mechanism is through the Khajiit devices that the board approved in December. Those are now up and working. The company has actually asked us to present with them at the Texas K-12 CTO Council because of our efficiencies and the way that we have been able to implement that program. That solution uses the Khajiit blocking, which is a different blocking software than what we use in district, though it is blocked. And if you'll remember, we had about a 2-month debate and evaluation about just that because we wanted to make certain that those devices that were going home with students were going home with appropriate blocking so that there would be some amount of protection with those devices with students that are going home.
Excellent, thank you. One other question. Back in my days when I was a functioning and relevant CISA, it was considered best practices where you placed considerable reliance upon software developed by a third party that you would check to see if somebody was testing and evaluating that third party software. Is that still considered best practices today, and do we do anything in that area?
You know, we made the decision back in, it was actually in the 2015 timeframe when we evaluated products for blocking. You know, with a district our size, the options are limited. And so the Fortinet solution comes coupled with the software called FortiGuard, which is the complementary product that actually does the blocking. We follow Gartner research, which is really a third-party mechanism for validating different products that are on the market for effectivity. Fortinet is CIPA compliant, which is a difficult rating to achieve. Because of the massive amount of internet hits and the blocking, you can see where it become a bottleneck very quickly if it is that the blocking software is not working as you know, it could serve as a tremendous bottleneck, and it does in a lot of districts. So I think I may have answered your question. I may have gone around, but the third party, I think, actually comes with the solution within the Fortinet and the FortiGuard product, as well as looking and evaluating what other districts are doing, not only in the state but across the nation, and following as many third-party analysis reports that we can get our hands on, such as Gartner.
And to answer your question, yes, you did give me the words that I was looking to hear, so
Okay.
Thank you once again very much.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Frankie. Our hearing on
Do we have
CIPA.
Do we have any questions from the?
Anyone? I don't think so, no.
Thank you.
All right, we're near the board comment section of our agenda. Any board member may make a comment during the portion of this agenda without prior posting being required. Comment items may not pertain to the character of any student, staff, or board member and may not be discussed or deliberated upon at this time. Anyone? Darcy?
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. I wanted to congratulate our teachers and staff on a great school year. And I've just been so impressed as we finish up with it, whether it's graduation or any of the end of the year celebrations at all of our schools. We're doing a great job, and it's been a very positive year. By the same token, I'm equally impressed that we're already underway with summer school. Camp Summit is underway, and it's wonderful that our students are getting some extra skill development during the summer, and I'm very pleased with what's going on. I hope everyone has a very healthy and safe and happy summer.
I just want to congratulate several people for such a successful graduation, particularly to Dr. Stewart and her team, who just do such a magnificent job of getting all the students organized, getting us board members organized and where we're supposed to be at the right time, and I truly appreciate that. And then also Beth Wade and her staff at the Berry Center do a phenomenal job, as well as Chief Mendez and our Cypher ISD Police Department. Everything just through all the graduations, to my knowledge, ran very smoothly and on time. And when I look at the number of students that we graduated, and I think about for 11 graduations that took place in the Berry Center, and think about what it would have cost if we had to rent a facility, not to mention the family members of those students if they'd had to pay $12 a car to park. Think of the money that we saved and the family members of those students. So once again, I applaud those members of the 2004 bond committee who had the foresight to build the Berry Center, because every time I see how well our district is utilizing that facility and the money that we save by not having to rent something, especially as we continue to grow and become even larger and adding 2 more high schools in 2 more years. So anyway, great job, everyone.
Thank you. Bob?
Kind of piggyback onto what's been said, I wanted to thank all the teachers, support staff, administrators, parents, and guardians who have made this 2017-18 school year as successful as it has been. About a month ago, I asked Ms. Hull, because we had just celebrated and acknowledged and congratulated kids at our May board meeting, and there were so many that could have been there, and sadly there were a lot that were tied up with tests and everything, but I just said we'd heard so much about winning state championships and winning first or second place on the state level, and I asked Ms. Hull if she would mind giving us kind of a list. So they did that, and just summarize, we had over 800 of our students in Cy-Fair that placed first or second on the state level in 2017-18, and that covered things like theater, tennis, visual arts, Air Force, ROTC, wrestling, automotive skills, AVP, cosmetology, fashion design, culinary, debate, FBLA business, early education, journalism, future teachers, honor choirs, TMEA, technology, state football champs, state baseball bronze champs. This is what the meaning of opportunity for all is, and this is not offered anywhere except in public school education. So I salute this school district and what they do. I salute our students for stepping up and exemplifying what it is to be successful in this school district. I did not mention in our May meeting that I had attended Black Elementary's presentation of Annie. It's not the full musical, they call it Annie Jr. And as elementary and 4th and 5th graders that put this on, it was an amazing presentation. The director is Matthew Bell and the principal Melissa Ledoux, and the students were just beyond wonderful, and it was great to watch. And to echo what Debbie said, I was on the bond committee, and it was 2001, I think, Debbie, yeah. that Berry Center is just awesome. And to see us go through 8,000 students that are graduating and see it handled as professionally as it was, Beth Wade and the Bay Center, the Berry Center group were just phenomenal. And then kind of a yell out to Julie Heineman, who participated in Leadership ISD this last year. Mr. Ryan and I got to go to a luncheon. We were impressed. Number one, she let us come to the luncheon, but number two, to see what she had done during that year, and then she also won an award as an agent of change. So congratulations, Julie. Thank you.
Christine.
Yes, I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what my fellow board members have been speaking about. I want to say thank you to all the teachers and staff who have gone through this tumultuous year with us. I want to say have a great summer. But I also want to give a shout out to those working Camp Summit. Many of you don't know maybe about our program, but we were lucky to see Dr. Henry and Bob and Dr. Macias present at the National School Board Convention about Camp Summit, which helps our students who are reading at least one level below where they should be reading, and 1 year below. And this week, now that school's out, I got to make a campus visit, which was wonderful. I got to see Bain's renovations and see the bond dollars at work, and just see this amazing new building that our students at Bain Elementary have. But I also got to see Camp Summit, and Darcy Mongoya went with me, and I got to see the students in action, doing their word work, doing their enrichment, assistant principals from other schools working there as teachers because they value working with the students. They love working with the students, and they want their teachers to know that they know what they're going through. So I want to give a shout out to all of those that are working our summer school programs, our Camp Summit. Our kids need this to prevent the summer slide, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing. Thank you.
You know, I think my colleagues have summarized the events quite nicely, where over 8,000 students graduated from literally all walks of life and stepping forth into also quite literally all walks of future pathways. Whether graduating to go into a trade, going into the military, a 2-year program, or a 4-year college program, as Bob pointed out, this is truly opportunity for all. Emblematic of that is what Bob does every year, is he congratulates a very small group of our students who persevere through tremendous odds. That's our NAC kids. Although it's a small, very small number, it represents that this district does support each and every child. And certainly our students at Carleton will tear your heart out, as will the stories you hear from Windfern, but you also heard it from the various commencement addresses. I have to compliment Dr. Linda Macias. This is the 10th year for the RRR conference, which is considered by many outsiders to be the penultimate leadership conference of its kind, not only in the state of Texas, but also in the United States. Part of the secret sauce that Commissioner Morath wonders about as it relates to this district, how can this district perform at such a consistently high level? Part of that answer is constant improvement and training of your staff and personnel, which is made available because of the RRR conference. This doesn't happen by accident. And a small thank you for the 13th year in a row. My merry band and I, we were permitted to come in and spread a little patriotism and a little American history to one of the classes. This year it was at Kayla, and it always feels good to talk about this country that we all love so very much. But teachers and graduates and central administrative staff, as well as our community that helps to build our schools and staff them, thank you ever so much for bringing Cy-Fair to this pinnacle of excellence.
It's already been said, but I want to thank all the principals, and it was quite a very good display. Those graduations and all the students, where everything proceeded, it was over 8,400 students, and their teams worked so hard. And I want to thank Dr. Stewart, Dr. Deborah, and Iffy. You all really make us feel so good up there as we go through all that we, the time that it helps it to pass by. And of course, we love each other and get along with each other real well. But it is really good. And I was happy to also step in and hear a little bit at our great speakers, Linda, the open up and close. And it was very good. Took a lot of good notes. So we're moving on.
Hey, John,
yes.
Just one thing. I just wanted to thank Deborah Stewart for the elevator music at the graduation. So thank you very much for leading the singing, would you?
All right.
Just one thing I'm going to add, and I know it's board comments, but since y'all have all said something about it, probably one of our longest and best partners is PBK Architects, and they're in the audience today, and they designed the Berry Center, and I don't know of any facility like it, and I don't know if anybody else could do what they did. So we appreciate PBK continuing to be a great partner in Cy-Fair ISD.
Great.
Mark, you also probably should mention that the center is so nice that other districts are using it as well for their graduations. So
We had two other fairly large school districts that they rent our facility every year to graduate in. So it's a money producer.
it is.
And saver.
We'll now go to the citizen participation portion of our agenda. Patrons who've duly registered per BED local may address the board regarding matters of concern or interest to the district other than the character of any staff, student, or board member. I'd like to remind the audience and viewers that the comments of these speakers reflect their own positions or opinions, and the board may not discuss or act upon any matter that is not listed under the action item portion of our agenda. Therefore, board members may not discuss the comments of the speakers. Please understand that a lack of response from board members does not indicate agreement or approval of the comments. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to address the board. Christine Hartley, our secretary, will be the designated timekeeper. Our first speaker is Anna Owens. And Anna, as well as all other speakers, when you begin speaking, the green light will come on. You have 3 minutes, 30 seconds, the yellow light, and then when the red light comes on, please conclude your statements. All right.
Hello, my name is Anna Owens. I'm an 8th grader from Hamilton Middle School going into the 9th grade at Cypher High School. I have been a student in the Cypress-Fairbanks ISD since kindergarten. The reason I'm here today is because I'm concerned about school safety. Based on the number of school shootings in the United States, I feel that our schools are not safe and are at risk for school shootings. According to a CNN report, there has been 23 school shootings since January 2018 on average. One school shooting every week this year, where someone was hurt or killed. I have a copy of the report if you would like to see it. This report also includes universities. The recent shooting at Santa Fe High School is 51 miles from our district. 10 people lost their lives at this school. My solution to this problem is to install metal detectors and armed security in our schools. When you go to an airport, attend a school sports function or concert, you go through metal detectors and have armed security for safety. The metal detectors need to be installed this summer so all students returning to school in August will feel safe and not be afraid to go to school. I hope you consider this solution. The safety of myself and all the students of Cypress-Fairbanks ISD is the utmost importance. Thank you for letting me speak at your board meeting today.
Thank you, Anna. Great job. Tara Cummings.
Hi, I'm Tara Cummings. I have two students in Cypher ISD. I'm a taxpayer and I'm an aspiring board member, so hey. I'm also concerned about school safety, and Governor Abbott's proposed school safety plan includes many things, not the least of which is arming school staff. And so I just want to be very clear about my position with regard to that proposal. No, thank you to that, very kindly. I don't think under any circumstances should we even consider arming our faculty or staff or bringing in armed marshals. I think we have a wonderful police department who does good work, and there are other options like Anna was talking about that we can consider before that craziness. And I would also like to encourage the board, administration, and the community to get behind the push for real gun safety legislative reform. We've got, I think someone else is gonna talk about the Texas Gun Reform Act of 2019. I've got a copy of it here. There's some other folks if anybody is interested in learning more about that. And I already mentioned it when I spoke before. I don't think gun violence in schools is entirely or unequivocally a problem of mental health concern, but with regard to keeping schools healthier and safer, additional school psychologists, just if I can work that in there again, I think would be helpful for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Our next guest speaker is Jackie Owens.
Good evening. My name is Jackie Owens. I am speaking in regards to school safety on behalf of myself and my husband, Paul Owens, who was not able to attend this evening. We are the parents of Anna Owens, a soon-to-be freshman, and Haley Owens, a senior at Cypher High School. Cypress-Fairbanks ISD is the third largest school district in the great state of Texas. There is approximately 115,525 students based on the enrollment data on September 20th, 2017. Each child attends approximately 38 hours per week at school. Based on the number of students and hours in attendance, it is a tremendous challenge for our district to keep our children safe. Currently, anyone can bring a gun into our schools through backpacks, jackets, or other means and hurt students in our schools. We are required to go through metal detectors at airports, school functions, courthouses, and concerts to be safe. The installation of metal detectors and armed security is a solution that has been proven to be successful at these places. It saddens me that our schools are no longer safe based on the world we live in, but there is a solution with the installation of metal detectors and armed security in our schools. We hope that Cypress-Fairbanks ISD and this board will step up and implement this much-needed safety call so that a tragic shooting does not happen within our school district. Thank you for letting me speak to the board today regarding school safety.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. Now, Angela Schaefer.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Angelica Schaefer, and I am the campaign director for the Student Series campaign with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And it's a great honor to be here and hear all of the amazing things that are happening in Cy-Fair, to see those teachers, those most deserving teachers, come and get their checks, because so many of them, those schools, are actually participating in Pennies for Patients this year. But I wanted to come out and not only recognize a very special principal at a campus that was just incredibly impactful in our mission, but also to say thank you to Cy-Fair ISD as a whole. We had over 20 campuses help us save lives this year, and everyone's spoken about how tumultuous this year has been. I think that, myself included, everyone was sort of ready for this school year to just be over. Like, we cannot handle one more weather item, but I will say that over 20 campuses, they decided that they were going to step up in a year where taking away from time for academics was, missed with all the missed time. They decided to step up and to help cancer patients and to fund cancer research. And Cypher ISD did that, but not only did they do that, they did it in a big way. Over 20 campuses participated, being able to impact over 300,000 patients right here in our community. So I do want to just let you know a little bit about LLS, as well as continue to celebrate. So as we know, Harvey happened, impacted a lot of the families right here in our community. And LLS was able to commit $800,000 to patients that were affected by Harvey, in addition to patient services totaling up to another $800,000. We have 11 Houston researchers right here in Houston, and we were able to have 9 treatments approved by the FDA, 9 targeted treatments for cancer. And out of those 9 treatments, altogether, they were able to be transferred over to 11 other different types of cancer, as LLS focuses on blood cancers. So that being said, Cypher was absolutely huge in the impact that we were able to make. Just with Student Series alone, this year we were able to raise $956,000 through the Pennies for Patients program, where teachers, counselors, nurses, principals, and the district as a whole decide that they want to be a part of something positive. So the campus that I'd like to recognize is Gleason Elementary. So I'm going to call out their their principal, but I'd love to recognize this campus. And they did 2 different things. So you guys talked about having safety in regards to internet connectivity for students. So these students were able to raise the 5th highest amount at Gleason Elementary with online giving. So they took social media to a whole new level and used it to create a global impact. And this campus, under the leadership of Principal, I hopefully say this correctly, Melanson, was able to be not only the top campus in the Cypher ISD district, but to be the number 6th campus out of the entire Texas Gulf Coast region. And our patients here needed their help now more than ever. So please join me in congratulating her.
Thank you, Angela, and congratulations on your recognition there. Our next speaker is Christina Woods.
Good evening. So we are speaking up for those who don't have anyone listening to them, for those who can't talk about it, and for those who will never speak again. We are grieving and furious. We are using our words fiercely and desperately, because that's the only thing standing between us and this happening again. That's a quote from Emma Gonzalez from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Our kids are being held hostage by a school shooting epidemic in this country. 18 years ago, in the year 2000, Young Texans Against Gun Violence rallied at the Texas Capitol to stop another Columbine from happening. All these years later, instead of addressing the problem through solid pro-public safety gun reform, our state has ignored the role of guns and the role they play in these incidents. We've criminalized students instead, and we've seen school shootings become an epidemic. There's been 62 school shootings, and this is not including college, since the school year began. 5 of those have happened in Texas schools. Studies show that students in K through 12 that witness and are victims of school shootings suffer from PTSD, mental health challenges that last into adulthood, challenges with concentration and social engagement, and display a significant decrease in test scores. Yet we tell kids that active shooter training can save them from an armed assailant. No one can outrun a bullet. No one. And neither a desk nor a courageous teacher can save a child from that bullet or the trauma that comes from a school shooting. Our governor has proposed a school and firearm safety action plan, yet the first 3 recommendations of that plan bring more firearms into schools. Yet there is no coherent plan, and he makes no commitment whatsoever to enacting universal comprehensive statewide firearm reform. We must stop deluding ourselves about the role of firearms in this epidemic and allowing our government and an unregulated industry to distract us from protecting our children. To the board, it is time for CFISD to take up the cause of gun reform. Your voices are needed. As a parent of 2 CFISD students, I implore you to go beyond district policing and increasing mental health screening and promote pro-public safety statewide gun reform. The Texas Gun Reform Act of 2019, I have a copy here, puts in place reforms that promote public safety, the safety of our schools, our children, our teachers and staff. Some of those reforms include a universal background check provision, raising the age of purchase to 21, strict storage provisions, lethal protective order provisions, and a prohibited purchaser provision. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Woods. Ryan Heath.
Good evening. Thank you for your time tonight and all you do for the district. My name is Ryan Heath. My family bought our home in the district specifically for the schools. I have 2 sons that go to Horn Elementary, and I spend a lot of time volunteering there. We can't say enough about the wonderful staff and students there. In response to Santa Fe, Governor Abbott released his school and firearm safety action plan, including the expansion of the Marshall Plan, which allows teachers or other staff to carry guns inside the school. For the safety of our students and educators, we urge Cy-Fair not to adopt the Marshall Plan. Guns don't belong in schools, which are meant to be places of sanctuary, safety, and learning for children. The presence of guns puts everyone at increased risks and layers even more safety concerns atop the heavy responsibilities already placed on the teachers. Arming civilians is not an effective way to stop shooters. Law enforcement officers are extensively trained to handle the dynamics of an active shooter, and civilians aren't. Out of 160 active shooter incidents, the FBI found only 1 successful armed civilian intervention, and that was a U.S. Marine. And the notion that a teacher with less training would be able to hit an active shooter is unrealistic and poses a greater risk. Research indicates the presence of guns at school makes children less safe. Students may know where the teachers keep their firearms and obtain access, subsequently tripling the risk of death by suicide or doubling it by homicide. If school employees carry guns into schools, we can expect tragic accidents. And just in March, a California teacher and reserve police officer accidentally fired a gun inside of a classroom, injuring at least 1 student. Other reports include school employees accidentally leaving guns unattended in bathrooms where they were found by students or parents. Experts in education and law enforcement agree that more guns in schools can increase volatility and risk. The American Federation of Teachers, the National Education Association, and the Major Cities Chiefs Association, along with everyone who testified in Austin on Tuesday, including the teachers and police, they expressed opposition. Liability insurers also recognize the increased risks and also often refuse coverage and raise premiums for schools that allow employees to carry guns. If we want to prevent school shootings, we need to adopt proactive, common sense solutions to keep people with dangerous histories from obtaining the guns. One way is to support the red flag laws, which is also in Abbott's plan, and this allows for loved ones and law enforcement, to petition a court to have a person's access to guns temporarily restricted when they're found to be a threat to themselves or others. A red flag would empower them to intervene before a shooter arrives at the schoolhouse door. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Heath. Alyssa Dupree.
My name is Alyssa Dupree, and I am a lifelong Cy-Fair learner. I grew up and still live on Fairbanks North Houston Road. I went to Reed Elementary, Dean Middle School, and graduated in 2007 from Jersey Village High School. I went to college at Sam Houston State University for journalism, but in January 2015, I quit my job to become a teacher. This year, I will enter my 4th full year of teaching, and I've never felt more at home. Somehow, despite not being formally trained, as a teacher at Sam Houston State University, I was personally asked by Susanna Young and Charmin Moaning to apply for a literacy lodestar leadership position. The day of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting, I was preparing to be observed by the district personnel the following day. I left work at 8 p.m. as I often do, but this time I felt utterly defeated. I'd been crying watching the news of yet another school shooting. Despite my clouded mind, I was chosen as one of the few to help lead 6th grade language arts teachers across Cypher ISD for the next 2 school years. I'm excited about this, but at the same time, I've never been more terrified to be a teacher. In the week following the shooting, an unannounced fire alarm went off during my 5th period class. With my heart pounding and fear running through me, I was the only person running upstairs to get a wheelchair-bound student to the staircase because my student safety comes first, which meant I had to ask another teacher to help keep an eye on my class while I made sure every student was out. For the 2018-2019 year, I've been assigned a new classroom, which is situated 2 feet away from a back entrance to the portables. As you can imagine, my already anxious nerves and thoughts are already racing about how to ensure the safety of my students in our new environment. I want to lead in my community. I want to learn and grow with my students. I want to feel safe. I have always had the utmost respect for this district, and I'm proud to be a part of it. All I ask of you is that you please continue to discuss how to keep our campuses safe without arming teachers, and do so in the most transparent way that you can, so that we can all continue to guide and empower our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dupree. Appreciate it. We'll now go to the report section of our agenda. Under 5A, the administration will provide a written report of the School Health Advisory Council, CHAC, annual activities. Any questions? Any questions? All right. 5B, the administration will provide a design development report on the progress of the design of the new middle school number 19, which will be situated adjacent to Cypress Park High School on 7425 West Green Boulevard, Cypress, Texas. Mr. Dylan Brady. Oh, and Dan, okay.
Hi guys, Dan Groves. President Ogletree, trustees, Dr. Henry, associate superintendents, it's a great pleasure to be here this evening to talk a little bit more about Middle School 19. We want to share with you a design development update with the next phase of the Cypress Park Ed Village. As you're aware, we started design for Cypress Park High School in summer of 2013, and it opened up in 2016. For Middle School 19, we kicked off design last fall in 2017, and we're going to share some dates with you today of what the planned progress will be. So that being said, we have PBK, as you mentioned earlier, with us this evening to help us with the presentation. They were originally selected as the architect for the entire Ed Village, so working on the high school, middle school will do presentation tonight, and then the elementary school will come in the future, obviously. But this evening we have Mr. Dan Boggio, Mr. Jorge Tiscarino, and Mr. Brad Berger to do the presentation.
Gosh, it's wonderful to be here, and this is a particularly neat board meeting to be at when you get to see all the accolades and everything that this district does. You certainly set the tone and set a wonderful example in this area, and we're so privileged to be one of the groups that you work with in your incredible growth. So thank you so much for allowing us to be involved with your district. We greatly admire what you do. And so, as Dan just mentioned, this is Middle School 19 on the same site as High School 11, which is Cypress Park. And in something that I thought was just an incredibly wise decision on the part of the board, was to approach this site as an educational village, to actually include a high school, a junior high, and an elementary school on this site. There's a number of advantages to an educational village. Not only is there reduced capital costs in putting these campuses in place, because we get to do things like have one kitchen, even though we have 3 dining rooms. We get lower costs because of just having to build one kitchen. We also have lower M&O costs because we're only operating 1 kitchen instead of 3. And there's a host of other things relating to 1 central plant instead of 3 central plants. And so very economical solution. So as Dan mentioned, Middle School 19 High School 6 opened, Cypress Park opened 2 years ago. So this is the 2nd campus. And in the event that the board chooses, there is room for an elementary school. And so we will show you just very briefly the entire master plan that we showed you 4 years ago when there was a design presentation on Cy Park, and then we'll concentrate on just Middle School 11. So I'm going to ask our senior designer, Jorge, could you come up and tell us a little bit about the design?
Thank you, Dan. Thank you to everybody. So just to go briefly over, actually, I think around like 4 or 5 years ago, we came and presented the original concept we all had, working with Roy, his department, and everybody else at PBK, actually trying to find out what was the best solution for that educational village. So after a lot of iterations, we ended up landing on this concept that I think nobody has forgotten. We just wanted to briefly showcase it. So the idea was to have all those dining commons that Dan was referring to. So that's the initial drop of water. The pond is actually that idea of a central courtyard and a learning courtyard that was going to be utilized for not only the high school that is already built, but actually for everything else. So that's actually the pond where the drop of water is going to. And then the notion of the ripples, and actually even thinking also of security, was the first ripple is actually the elementary school. It's actually going in reverse. That's probably going to be the last thing. It's also just because of demographics. But the original concept had the first ripple closest to that dining commons be the elementary school that you see at the top right. Then at the second ripple was the middle school. That's the one we're addressing right now. And then the third ripple actually furthest from the central location of the drop, meaning those dining commons, was the high school that has already been built. And lastly, we come in with the community bar that, that high school has been built with. The arch is all the academic is 3 levels. And then that community bar is actually all the gyms and a theater and everything else. So that was the original concept, and this is actually that original rendering that we did a couple of years ago. As you all know, the high school has already been built. The label in red is actually the thing we're presenting right now. That's the middle school. And then eventually farthest on the back will be the elementary school. And that's actually like around 150, 149 acres for the whole site. Like everything toward the front has already been built, like we mentioned, and then we're going to be focusing on 19. And next will be Brad to talk about the master plan.
Thanks, Jorge. Here is the current master plan updated from when this was first presented several years back. So you see Cypress Park High School on the right. The red arrows indicate the entrances to these schools. Middle School 19 at the top left, along with the fields, and the future elementary school at the bottom left. Zooming in here, you can see the main entrance point for the middle school. It does share the learning courtyard with the other schools, but does have a separate, unique, and independent entry. The traffic patterns shown here, developed with traffic engineer, do have separate parent drop-offs, a shared bus drop-off that will be shared with the elementary school in the future. And then, of course, here in the yellow, we do show the parent drop-off for the future elementary school. At the top of the screen, you do see a purple shared special ed bus drop-off. That drop-off area is currently used by Cypress Park High School for their special ed buses. A little bit here on the site security. The top left, you see the fields enclosed with fencing to protect people who should not be on those fields in that area. Additionally, we are enclosing large portions of the courtyard to keep people from coming in from the outside into the courtyard. So you cannot access that courtyard unless you're either let in through the front or have special access. There is also separation within the courtyard between the different schools. The intent was to have them be open visibly so that they could share experiences if needed, but also block them off. The future elementary school has a natural connection point between the elementary school and the commons that provides a more than just a fence barrier between the elementary school and the middle school, but could be connected to that central courtyard if needed. One request early on in design was to make sure that we had adequate traffic flow to and from the commons from the middle school. We have provided 2 different routes here since a lot of the traffic between the different periods of lunch occurs at the same time. We wanted to make sure there was not a lot of congestion in those areas. So we have provided 2 covered walkway areas protected from the rain. They are not fully enclosed and air conditioned, but they do have rain protection for those students. Main entry here, I will touch briefly on the security measures we do have here. Like Cypress Park High School, there is the secure vestibule required to come in and badge in. Just like you have at Cypress Park, there is a blue emergency site phone at the front as well. One additional feature that this has that the high school did not have is a dedicated bathroom for that entry area. So if someone comes in, needs to use the restroom, you don't have to let them into an unsecure area. They can use that right there up at the front. Before I go onto the second floor, you'll see that the floor plan is actually a mirror of the high school. The curved area, what we call the academic arc, has all your academic, science, library, and administration classrooms in that area. The bar is a little bit smaller than the high school, but does contain your athletics, your fine arts, and some of your CTE components. Second and third floors are basically mirrors. You have an opportunity to do 6, 7, 8 on each floor, 8, 7, 6, however you choose to do that. With that, I'll pass it back on to Jorge. He'll talk about some of the design components.
Thank you, Brad. So just also touching again briefly on sort of the older sibling of this campus. So this is we have 2 photographs of the existing Cy Park High School. So the idea was to actually have as we go through the 3 campuses, that each of them. It's a balance of having it be one cohesive campus, and by the look of it, it also looks like a little bit like the Google or even the Apple campus. But at the same time, because it is a campus, but it's also made out of 3 distinct schools, we also wanted to give them, each of them, a very distinct entry points. As you saw from the site plan, they all have actually very different points. One other thing too is that one major road that is actually on the bottom and around, that is actually not a public road, that's actually a road for the school. So and any sort of parent drop-off or even overflow will actually go to that one, and it will not affect any of the other traffic. So this is the main entry for Cy Park High School, and this is the backyard. Actually, that's all the science for people that have been into it. Those 2 other levels are, the second and third levels, all the science, and I think one of the prep rooms looking into the outside of the courtyard. We had those pictures because we wanted them to show you what Middle School 19 is going to look. This is actually the main entrance. Again, this is sort of the middle sibling, and not to actually go into that syndrome of the middle child, we wanted to give it a lot of emphasis and a lot of its own distinct entry. You know, I have a son that is going into high school, so I understand sort of that teenage years is kind of that awkward moment. So we wanted to give actually this, again, this middle school its own very distinct entry, but at the same time be part of that cohesiveness of the unified campus. Actually, this is almost like the same thing, but just a little bit lower. It's actually 2 levels instead of 3, as we have in the high school. On the back, as you saw the pictures from Cy Park, is the same thing, very similar language. In this case, the 3 levels that you see is all the academic that Brad was referring to. At the end is actually all the science. And that portion that you see toward the left is actually the library. Very similar, again, to what we have in Cy Park. The library is toward the back, and it opens actually to the whole side, this whole central learning courtyard that will take actually activated as well. And this is just actually an overall aerial, but instead of actually looking at it from the point of view from the high school, this is again looking at it from the point of view from the middle school. On the back, you actually see Cy Park High School. On the top sort of right, you'll see the dining commons that is expanding, and sort of that ghost translucent pictures that you see toward the top right. This is actually the future elementary school, and even the future dining commons for the elementary school as well. And on the interior, this is the same thing, again, very similar to the same language and design that we have in Cy Park. Again, just a little bit lower with, again, its own distinctive colors to make it, again, it's sort of this in-between of trying to make it feel like a high school, but also being very cognizant of the age of the students coming here. So it's a little more playful than Cy Park, with, again, the same sort of design elements that we had before. This is the library, again, that we were just mentioning. So it has, you see at the top, all those flexible areas looking into and participating into the library. Everything here is flexible, including all the mobile, all the bookshelves and all the furniture as well, and providing a lot of data and electrical power for the library to become a very activated learning environment. Then this one is actually we're very excited with this middle portion. This actually lies in the middle of the academic, not necessarily in the middle of the school, but in the middle of that curved piece that is the 3 levels. Again, this portion is actually, we're calling it sort of the learning hub or the learning atrium. It actually opens up and connects all the 3 levels vertically. And as Brad was mentioning, it depends on how the school is going to be working. It can be, for 6th grade, 7th, and 8th on each level, or it can work vertically. But at this point, we actually have the LGIs that you see on the left. It's a lecture LGI with actually a sloped floor on the bottom, a normal LGI on the 2nd level, and then a science LGI on the top. And then on this other side, we have a learning stair. But what we did, we always were thinking, what else can we do with the learning stairs? You've probably seen in a lot of schools and a lot of magazines. What we have actually here, the learning stairs, again, is not necessarily in the front just because of show. It's actually in the middle of the academic to service all the instructional. And at the same time, it's actually going to work as an overflow for the science and the lecture, for the lecture LGI, because then what we're designing is actually operable partitions that can open up, and actually you can have an overflow to the middle level, or even actually take it a little further into the learning stairs as well. And then the other notion is having a lot of daylight coming in, and even also some connectivity of all the levels, so you see all the kids can look up and down. And this is actually some renderings of that learning hub. This is looking into the learning stairs. You see all the different connections. Every level will have a distinct color that will identify every level. This is looking from the other side, looking at that overflow that we're mentioning to the lecture LGI. Brad.
Thank you. I'll briefly go over the schedule. Bidding is expected to start this summer, wrapping up in the early fall, with the construction starting in August of this year if everything goes as planned. The school would open in August of 2020, and of course you would have your standard 1-year warranty phase after that. Construction, this is our estimated cost, about $56 million, comes in about $224 a square foot. And with that, if there's not any questions, we've got a brief animation. All right.
Any questions?
You going?
I can hold for questions.
Dan, I know that you're serving on a committee as a result of Santa Fe.
Yes.
And it's on safety and security. So are we implementing some of that in this middle school?
We are. As a matter of fact, we had a meeting yesterday with 20 police officers from 20 of the largest school districts in the state of Texas. And we're actually putting together a safety and security council to just understand what the best design features that we can possibly put into a building, along with the best administrative procedures. And so, in fact, I see the nice lady over there from the Houston Chronicle. She attended our meeting yesterday with all these police officers. But let me just say, we have these folks looking at our designs. And I also want to say, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this, and believe me, I'm not saying this because I'm standing in a Cypher board meeting, but when we look at what you all have done over the years compared to other districts, you have put a tremendous amount of emphasis on safety and security. The fact that you have these vestibules and you're using bullet-resistant glass at the vestibules, the fact that you have to be buzzed into the building, and you heard Brad talk, we don't even want someone, that is, this district doesn't want someone to use the excuse that they need to use a restroom. If they need to use a restroom, they now can get to a restroom without being buzzed into the building. You're not going to see that in most districts. You have truly been leaders when it comes to school safety and security. Dr. Henry mentioned that have we done enough? Well, the fact is, as time goes on and this issue becomes a bigger and bigger issue, I'm sure we're all going to do more. I'm sure we're going to do more as an industry. One of the reasons that we assembled all of these police officers is we want to understand. We want to understand exactly what the best things we can do are, and we know nothing else to do than to gather the best minds that have to deal with this. And there's also administrative procedures that are going to accompany the architectural design features. So let me say, we're, very sensitive to the security. We do think it's a new day, and we have to make sure we're giving this the attention that it absolutely deserves. This district has been an example of giving security the attention it deserves, and as time goes on and it becomes even more intense, we hope to be right there with you, and so that's what we're doing. There's some basic things in the design of this particular building. The fact that it's circular, that there's in college they call it a quadrangle. I guess it's hard to call something that's a circle a quadrangle, but the fact is it's like a college quadrangle, and we're able to secure it a lot easier from the backyards by controlling the main entries with the bullet-resistant vestibules and being buzzed in, and being able to control access to the back of the buildings, because there is a courtyard that's secure and you have to have special access to that courtyard. That's some passive security items, along with putting glass in appropriate places and not blocking views with landscaping and a host of other things that we could go on and talk about for hours. But rest assured, it's at the forefront of our minds. It's been at the forefront of your minds. Your administrators have been amazing when it comes to the level of security that they've put into your past buildings. And so we look forward to continuing to make these buildings more and more safe as time goes on. And so I hope I answered your question.
Any other questions? All right, you ready for the animation? Yes, ready for the animation.
Ready for the video?
We just have a quick animation here, and then this will conclude our remarks about this building. So you can see the high school at the top of the site. We're actually looking at the new middle school here, and that's the new entry that we just talked about.
Just for everyone to know, while that's running, how many students is this designed for?
It's about 1,500 students, and with portables, about 1,750.
Thank you very much.
Right.
I also would be remiss if I didn't say we don't do this in a vacuum. As you may know, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of meetings with the various educators, the department heads, and all the folks, all the various departments in the district. And that requires a lot of great guidance on the part of the administration. So to the administrators, Dr. Henry, you and your cabinet, and an awesome facilities department, we really appreciate the guidance and all of the things that you do to make these projects successful. Thank you very, very much.
And Dan, as I said earlier, we appreciate you, but have you ever heard of getting better by subtraction? You've heard that term? Well, Dylan's leaving us in a couple of weeks, so we're probably going to be even better then. So.
Oh. We're gonna miss Dylan.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Great. Excited about that. We'll now go to the action items. During the course of the committee of the whole meeting on Monday, it was the consensus of the board that the following action items be approved as submitted or amended. 6A, the board will consider approving the tax refunds of $500 or greater to Cypress-Fairbanks ISD. 6B, the board will consider approving the minutes of the May 17, 2018 regular meeting. On Monday, the following non-consensus items were placed on the consensus agenda. 7A, the board will consider awarding the bids and contracts and or authorizing purchase orders as recommended in this posted agenda item. 1, art and miscellaneous school supplies. 2, assorted beverages and food for nutritional services. 4, athletic, all activity student accident insurance renewal. 5, automotive OEM proprietary parts and labor for the Bluebird Ford International Thermo King and Thomas bus. 6, bananas for nutritional services. 7, baseball grounds equipment for high schools. 8, bread for nutritional services. 9, carpet and resilient flooring. 10, ClassLink software licenses. 11, contracted educational services and professional development services. 12, dark fiber network. 13, electrical supplies. 14, excess workers' compensation coverage renewal. 15, fencing with wire mesh partitions. 16, food supplies for banquet, catering, and concessions. 17, LED retrofit for instructional support center. 18, milk for high schools, nutritional services. 19, printer maintenance. 20, processed produce for nutrition services. 21, programming, inspection, and repair of fire alarm and sprinkler systems. 22, RFID cards. 23, school liability, privacy and information security, and automobile insurance renewal. 24, software license and maintenance renewal expansion. 25, whole produce for nutrition services. 26, Xtrim IO X2 upgrade, EMC storage upgrade. B, the board will consider approving the budget amendments for the period of April 1, 2018 through June 30, 2018. D, the board will consider a resolution approving the district's investment policy and investment strategy, the investment officers of the district, the independent sources of instruction relating to investment responsibilities for the investment officers of the district, and investment training hours. F, the board will consider approving a resolution for the commitment of the district's fund balance. H, the board will consider approving the attached list of students for off-campus Physical Education, Category 1 for 2018-2019 school year fall. I, the board will consider approving the issuance of career and technical education, CTE, teaching permits to applicants in lieu of standard teaching certifications as established in House Bill 2205 for automotive instructors Wilson Ortiz and Carrie Johnson. J, the board will consider approving the 2018 Harris County Protective Services interlocal agreement with the Harris County Protective Services for children and adults, the HCPSA, to provide community youth services for students and families in the Cypress-Fairbanks ISD. L, the board will consider approving on second reading additions, revisions, or deletions to district policies. That is 1, DEC local. If any board member wishes to remove one or more items for further discussion, please do so at this time. If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the consensus items as recommended or amended.
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the consent items as recommended and/or amended.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that these consensus items be approved. Is there any discussion? If not, let's all raise our right hands. It is unanimous. Now we'll go back to the action items. 7A, the board will consider awarding bids and contracts and authorizing purchase orders as recommended in the posted agenda item, and that is 3, assorted food for nutrition services.
Mr. President, I move that the board award bids and contracts and authorize purchase orders as recommended in the posted agenda item, assorted food for nutrition services.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Any?
Dr.
Yes,
O,
Debbie.
I will be abstaining from the vote as my son is employed by Jake's Finer Foods that is included in this item.
Thank you, Debbie. All right, all those in favor of approving this item, would you please raise your right hands? All right, it is approved. Item C, the board will consider approving a list of qualified financial institutions, brokers, dealers, investment advisors that are authorized to engage in investment transactions with the district. May I have a motion, please?
Dr. Ogletree?
Yes.
I move that we approve the list of qualified financial institutions, brokers and dealers, and investment advisors that are authorized to engage in investment transactions with the district.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Do you have any discussion or anything?
John, let the minutes reflect that I'm abstaining from voting as my financial ownership is in excess of the amount deemed to be a conflict of interest.
Okay. All right. All those in favor, that is so noted, Tom, thank you. All those in favor of this motion, please raise your right hands. All right, it is approved. E, the board will consider the adoption of the 2018-2019 budget.
I move that the board adopt the 2018-2019 budget as presented by the administration.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on that? All right, let us all raise our right hands in approval, if we so approve. Okay, it is unanimous. G, the board will consider approving board members to serve as delegate and alternate delegate to the 2018 Texas Association of School Boards Annual Delegate Assembly.
Dr. Ogletree, I move that the board select Debbie Blacksher as delegate and John Ogletree as alternate delegate to the Texas Association of School Boards Annual Delegate Assembly.
Second.
Thank you, Christine. You really saved us with that second thing. Get this laid out. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hands. All right. K, the board will consider approving, and by the way, I want to thank you, Christine. You did an awesome job as our delegate. We're ever so thankful.
Thank
you. Okay. K, the board will consider approving the 2018-2019 Cypress-Fairbanks ISD School Student Code of Conduct.
Dr. Ogletree, I move the board approve the 2018-2019 Cypress-Fairbanks ISD Student Code of Conduct.
Second.
All right, any discussion, questions? All right, all those in favor, would you please raise your right hands? And it is unanimous, it's approved. And the board will consider approval of the contract of employment as discussed in closed session. We don't have anything.
Marnie can explain if you want.
Marnie, would you please explain this? Marnie's lost for words for the first time.
No, so you're
Why this was on the agenda, would you just explain?
It's okay, just go back to sleep. I think I know what we're gonna do.
This was previously approved earlier this evening.
right. I guess that's why I was. Right. That's what I was making sure you're talking about the MUD district contract, correct?
No, this is Ian.
Oh, N, not M.
Ian.
Okay,
I'm
sorry. That's why I was
Ian.
I thought you were wanting me to explain again why the MUD didn't come. Sorry.
I got you.
I
understand.
had. So I asked that it be placed on the agenda in case we wanted to talk about contract revisions. The contract is in place and you don't have to take action. And so my understanding is that we're not going to make any revisions this year, so I would just pass on the item. I don't need a closed session to talk to you further about it.
All right. Thank you. We'll now go to O. The board will consider approving the superintendent's recommendation to give notice to Valerie Clayton that it is proposed that her employment with the district under a probationary contract. Am I reading the right one?
No, that's
Okay.
probation. Okay.
I wanted to make sure I had the right language. I thought it was changed. Wasn't changed. Let me. Under a probationary contract, be terminated.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Trustees give notice to Valerie Clayton pursuant to Section 21.104 of the Texas Education Code that it is proposed that her employment with the district under a probationary contract be terminated.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor of that, would you please raise your right hands? Okay, it is unanimous.
I'll turn it back over to you.
We'll now have the superintendent's briefing.
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. As has been discussed earlier, we had 11 CFISD graduation ceremonies at the Berry Center, May 30th through June 2nd. where we had 8,472 graduating seniors. We had approximately 68,000 guests who attended our commencements, and thousands of others watched the ceremonies live or through live streaming on the district live stream account. The live streams generated more than 28,000 combined views from 49 states and 56 different countries as of June 7th. Certainly, for a district our size, it's very unusual to have board members that attend all of the graduations. And certainly, as has been said earlier, we thank so many of our employees who helped organize and assist as our 11 high schools went through these graduation ceremonies. And we certainly wish our graduates the best as they pursue their future endeavors. The 10th annual CFISD Rigor, Relevance, and Relationships Leadership Conference was held at the Berry Center June 5th through 7th. More than 1,350 administrators from 83 Texas school districts participated in the conference. The conference offered 102 different sessions on relationship building, working with students from poverty, best practices, instructional technology, and school safety. And as always, and has been stated earlier, it's the best PD conference that we have, and it's sold out every year, so congratulations, Dr. Macias and your team for putting on such a fine event, and the Berry Center for their support. Summer school started this week, and we have over 11,000 students enrolled. That number includes 6,809 elementary students, 1,355 middle school students, and 3,200 high school students. And to put that into perspective, 11,000 students in summer school is more students than over 90% of the school districts have in their entire district for a regular school year. So we have a whole nother school system that operates in the summer. I just a couple of things I want to add. Certainly Stuart and Karen and their teams for putting together a budget. You know, if you remember 3 or 4 months ago, we started off and we were talking $50 million proposed budget deficit, but Stuart, along with many other people, found ways to whittle that down without causing harm to any students or any of our staff. So I appreciate their hard and creative work in putting together a budget that will serve this district well, and it continues to amaze me how efficiently this district operates. Most of our money is spent in the classroom. We have the lowest administrative cost in the state. Katy ISD and Cypher ISD compete back and forth to see who has the lowest actual administrative percentage cost. So appreciate Stuart and his team for putting that together. This is also the last board meeting for several people. This is Nicole's last board meeting, and I think, Nicole, 5 years, and just the transformation we've seen in the communication department over the last 5 years. You've had a big part of that. And you are to be commended for that, and certainly Nicole is going to continue to be in our community, and we'll continue to use her as a resource and look forward to the great things you're going to continue to do. Also, Donna Shepard and Scott Shepard, as y'all know, Donna's been in the district for 2 or 3 decades, and Scott was with us about 5 or 6 years, and Scott's the new superintendent in Huntsville, and they're moving or have moved to Huntsville, and so we wish them the best of luck. And then, I was kidding him, but what's that? Oh, I was kidding Dylan earlier, but we had a little going away for all of these folks Tuesday night, and I can tell you something that Marnie said, and of course y'all know how eloquent Marnie is when she's paying attention, that Marnie made the statement that it seemed like Dylan had been here longer than 3.5 years, and she didn't mean that as being ugly. It's all he's accomplished in 3.5 years with our construction department. And Dylan, you will be missed. So, in fact, the only reason, Dylan, I took a shot at you because he was disappointed I didn't take more shots at him the other day, so I was trying to make up for lost time, and I'm running out of time to do that, but we do appreciate all of these four people for the contributions that they've made to the district. And with that, Dr. O, I'll turn it over to you. He's doing it.
And last, we do have one other person who has served Dr. Henry as his personal assistant, but also has served our board in such a magnanimous way. And Lisa, gosh, we wanted to give you something, Lisa, from us. You have been a blessing to all of us, and we thank you for the wonderful job you've done. And we pray many blessings upon you as you move on. May God bless you. All right, I think that concludes our agenda. And, oh, did anyone from MUD 167? No one? Okay. All right, I thought I better. We are adjourned. See y'all. Thank you.